Stormborn by Black K. Cat. Chapter 3. Rising Progression. Accelerando. Progression. The movement of chords in succession. Accelerando. A symbol used in musical notation indicating to gradually quicken tempo. Their first C rank is no simple escort and protection mission. Not a C rank at all, no matter what Tazuna the Bridge Builder tells them. The Demon Brothers find them, take out Kakashi, and then come for the Chunin, and a part of Naruto wants to hesitate, flinch back, and freeze, but the rest of him has dreamed of mission after mission because Arashi became a Chunin at 9 and a Chunin at 12, and had been going on them for years already. So it's instinct to lunge forward, instinct and something else. Because there's a Kage sleeping in the back of his thoughts, buried beneath the everyday and mundane, and the Kage sees that Kiri Hitayate and burns. It's regret and remorse and anger and fear all tangled up, resentment that makes no sense in anything except Naruto's own context, because he remembers being Uzukage, remembers Kiri's ships at the edge of the city, a traitor in their midst, bringing the barrier down at the worst possible moment, remembers Kiri shinobi slaughtering villagers, ninja, and civilians alike, and that part of him rages, makes him whirl right past the clawed gauntlets and chains that the brothers use and draw his senbon, still his best weapon. Sasuke is flanking him, moving as though they've practiced this when they never have, but Naruto takes out the man on the left and Sasuke takes the one on the right, and when the smoke clears, they're the ones still standing. Kakashi helped, but the less Naruto thinks of that lazy porn-obsessed idiot who let them think he was dead, the better it will be for his blood pressure. And when it's all over, Sasuke looks at him, dark eyes as inscrutable as ever, and nods. Just once, but it's more of an acknowledgement than Naruto has ever gotten from him before. It's staggering, that gesture. And because all Naruto has ever wanted, even more than a rival or friend, is for that person to look at him without contempt, to acknowledge him. He grins back, wide and bright, and falls into place beside him as they head on down the road. Sasuke steps in front of a blow meant for him. Naruto stares at him, as Sasuke starts to fall, and all he can think of for one endless heartbeat is standing on the docks of Uzushio as Kagame's ship departs, waving once and watching Kagame lean over the railing to wave in return before one of the burly Jonin sailing with him grabs him by the scruff and hauls him back to safety. Naruto had laughed and waved until the ship was out of sight, and then he'd never seen Kagame again. Kagame had died on the way back to Konoha, ambushed and ruthlessly cut down, and now Sasuke is the same. Naruto hasn't blocked out the voice in his head. Not since Mizuki. He's listened and accepted, and it feels like a part of him, like himself, but right now, the man he used to be is rising, right along with his grief and anger, pushing down even the flickers of crimson fury that try to escape, and Naruto closes his eyes and just doesn't fight. He lets a whole lifetime of instinct take over, doesn't even try to resist what his body knows to do, knows how to do, and moves. Futon! Godly wind from the mountains! Wind rise, and Naruto bares his teeth as he feels the ice mirrors around them straining. Immediately, even as the vortex forms, he raises his hands again. Suton! Water trumpet! The mirrors crack, exploding outward under the sheer force of chakra and the combined jutsus. They shatter and fall to pieces, and the other shinobi, Haku, Zabuza called him. But no, Naruto doesn't want his enemies to be human, doesn't want the one who killed Sasuke to have a name and an identity and a story, is hurled backwards. Naruto lunges with all the speed he can call up, moves so fast he's nothing but a streak of blue and gray and gold, lashes out and cracks that loathed mask right down the center with a single blow. I hate you, he thinks, furious and bereft and aching. I hate you! You took another of my precious people away from me! And then it's that boy from the forest staring back at him with equally bereft and empty eyes, and Naruto pulls his blow at the last moment, flips the senbon in his hand around and strikes with his knuckles instead of the needle and knocks Haku to the ground. Why? He demands, voice breaking. You're from that time, but... And Haku tells him. They're the same, aren't they, in the end? Jinchuriki and child of a bloodline, both hated and feared and shunned. That's why, when Haku whispers, "Kill me," Naruto sets his teeth, pulls one set of memories to the front, and darts forward too fast to see. He grabs Haku's arm, and from under his fingers, black marks race out, twisting into a dark seal, and Haku's eyes flutter shut. He falls, instantly unconscious, and Naruto spins to where he could feel Zabuza's chakra. There's a sound from the mist, voices speaking, and then the chirping of 1,000 birds, and a body collapses to the bridge, one soul lighter, without the weight of life to hold it up. He closes his eyes and turns away. I'm sorry, he thinks, because Haku will wake up to an empty world, and because he didn't move fast enough, couldn't stop Zabuza's death. I'm so very, very sorry for your loss. Haku weeps when he hears, inconsolable and shaken to the core, and when Naruto goes down on his knees beside him, the other boy leans into him. He lets Naruto curl his arms around his shoulders and hold him as Naruto himself has never been held before. And they're shinobi. They're tools. But they're human too, to grieve and fear and hope. And that's all they can ever be unless they cut out their own hearts. It's not good, not fine, not even close, but they're still breathing even though they're unwanted, unloved. And maybe, just maybe, they can lean on each other until they learn to stand against this cold world on their own. If they ever do. Kakashi makes no protest when, as they leave, Haku falls into step with them. Into step with Naruto, who looks at him and smiles sadly and doesn't say, I'm so sorry, I wish you would blame me because that would be easier. But nothing is ever easy, and Haku just smiles sadly back, and they walk on together. Sasuke walks in front of them and says nothing, but Naruto thinks that he might as well be walking with them too, for all that's written in his dark eyes. After everything, after explanations and paperwork and medical checkups and recoveries, it's just them. It's Naruto and it's Haku, and it's Naruto and Haku living together in a tiny apartment that's too big for one but just right for two. It's shared meals and silent sorrow, nightmares comforted by the sound of another's breathing, goodbyes and hellos, and being able to say, I'm home, and receive a response. There are still dreams standing between them. Memories, more accurately. Haku's of Zabuza dying and Naruto's of Uzushio falling. And they don't talk about those, but that's okay. Haku is training as a medic nin, and Naruto is still a genin, but with the Chunin exam looming, Kakashi pushing them forward in his lazy, manipulative way. They're both a little lost, but not alone anymore, and that's better. A comfort, when there are few enough of those to go around. Naruto dreams at night, every night. Another life seen in bits and pieces and broken shards, whirling through his mind too fast for him to follow, though he follows it anyway. Because Arashi is him, and whatever lines he thought were between them are growing thin now, if they ever existed at all. He dreams of being a genin, and then a Chunin, and then a Jonin. Dreams of advancing and rushing and pushing himself forward, a whole city at his back, the Uzumaki clan firmly united behind a young man everyone calls a genius, but who laughs and smiles like anyone else, who devotes himself to his village without fail or hesitation, remembers an old man with long white hair standing before him, lifting an ornate hat from his head and settling it gently on Naruto's. Their blue and white robes of office shining under the spring sun, remembers signing his name with a new title for the first time, Saindame Uzukage Uzumaki Arashi. And then he wakes up and walks through the streets, and people whisper how he's unfit to be a shinobi, unfit to live among them like a human, when he's actually not. It hurts more now than it did when he didn't know the reason for it somehow. Aches and stings and smarts because he spent 12 years in this village growing and running and laughing like any other boy. And how can they have watched him, seen him as a child, and still call him a demon? Haku doesn't understand completely, but enough. He's not deaf, not blind. He notices the whispers and the glares and how few outside of Sasuke and Sakura and Kakashi ever acknowledge him at all. Because he's kind, he never asks, but Naruto notices the way he steps forward, walks between Naruto and the more crowded sections of the street when they're out in public. It's sweet, and Naruto looks at him and smiles and thinks of Uzumaki Yui with her red hair tied in a high tail, her fierce defense whenever someone put Arashi down. She had only been his assistant as Uzukage, but she quickly became a friend. have liked her, he thinks, and grins at his new friend, who's pretty enough to be a girl and has the heart of a tiger beneath his calm facade. We should see if Haruka-sensei's up for ramen, he suggests, crossing his arms behind his head and basking in the late afternoon sunset. Haku doesn't quite roll his eyes, but it's close. How about we just make something for ourselves, he counters. I'm sure your teacher's wallet will thank us. Naruto gives the boy his best pout. But Haku, ramen is amazing. Naruto-kun. That look, while seemingly placid and calm and only slightly exasperated, is one Naruto has come to realize means only trouble for him. With a sigh, he raises his hands before he's stabbed in several vulnerable places with Senbon and gives in. Alright, can we have yakitori then? Haku smiles at him like he's a well-behaved puppy or something, and clearly just refrains from patting him on the head. Yes, Naruto-kun, we can have yakitori, but you'll have to help me make it, alright? Haku, don't talk to me like I'm 5! I would never. Surely it's all in your imagination, Naruto-kun. Haku! So it's Naruto, and it's Haku, and it's Naruto and Haku, and then the Chunin exams happen, and it's Gaara too, staring across the arena with the dead eyes that only just manage to cover the loneliness and anguish that pours out of him. Naruto doesn't need the whispering voice to tell him that this is another soul adrift in the same way he is. Two he's met so far, within a month of each other. And sometimes Naruto looks across the dinner table at Haku and wonders how many more there are. How many more children like them? Cast away and unwanted, rejected by those around them, and only surviving on willpower and sheer stubborn determination to live. Too many, surely. But at the same time, not enough. Konoha wins in the short war, even though the Saindame dies. One more precious person lost, one more, and never again, not ever! And Sasuke is marked by the snake, and Naruto gets dragged off to look for Tsunade. All he can think about is a little girl clinging to her granduncle's hand during Uzushio's first time hosting the Chunin exams. A little blonde girl with big eyes and a stubborn slant to her mouth, a fiery temper and a soft touch. And he wonders how Arashi knows the future Gandame as a child until he realizes just how old she really is. Jiraiya teaches him the Rasengan, or the beginning of it. And at night, after the Toad Sage is asleep or out on his own business, Naruto sits up in bed, missing Haku. It's strange how quickly he's been accustomed to this, to not being alone. Strange and unsettling, because Naruto likes to think that he's independent and self-reliant and able to stand on his own. And this doesn't exactly make him weak, but maybe it's the next best thing. He remembers Arashi's grief, his grief, anytime an Uzushio's shinobi fell. Remembers and mourns, because this is the price of having precious people. This fear and terror and open, obvious, gaping wound telling enemies just where to strike. Not that it matters. Not in the least, because Naruto isn't going to lose any more of his precious people. Not the way he did in Uzushio. Blood and flames and war and the sea stained red beneath the dawn. Not like he lost the Saindame. Not any way. Not again. He masters Rasengan in a handful of days, and there's excitement bubbling in his chest as he stares at his hand the first time he completes it successfully. It's hard, it hurts, but there's so much potential. Naruto knows objectively that the Yondame Hokage was a genius. Everyone says so, but this? Flexing his fingers, he grins, then slips away from Jiraiya's less than watchful eye to find a secluded clearing to practice in. They called Uzumaki Arashi the storm god for his wind, for his water. Wind comes easier, always, and Naruto calls it up in its most basic raw form, adds it to that swirling sphere of chakra just because he can. Just because he's been pushing himself as Naruto, as Arashi, since the very first time he accepted his dreams as one kind of reality. Because he's the boy who, at the age of 12, twisted water and wind into a bunshin just to see what it would do. And this is no different. The resulting jutsu doesn't quite blow him away, but anyone else is fair game. Orochimaru comes for Tsunade and Naruto grins, Rasengan in one hand, the tight spiral sucking up wind chakra, Suiton destruction torrent in the other, and he's used this type of attack before against Haku's ice mirrors, but this is 100 times more powerful than a redirected tornado and a jet of water. This is enough to stop one of the Sannin in his tracks, and if it's not enough to drop him completely, well, soon. Naruto, keep practicing. Then he's dragged back to Konoha, and Tsunade heals Sasuke. Then Sakura, the only girl Naruto has ever looked at, the only one he's ever really wanted a kind word or gentle gesture from, ignores him completely. She throws her arms around Sasuke's neck as he sits up, clings and cries, and never looks over. Even though Naruto was the one to save her from Coruscant, even though he was the one to convince Tsunade to return to the village and cure Sasuke. Never once does she look at him, and Sasuke doesn't either. He keeps his eyes on the wall, even as he rests a hand on Sakura's shoulder, as close to an acceptance of her emotions as Naruto has ever seen from him. Naruto looks at them for a long moment, feeling his smile fade. He fixes it to his face and ducks away out of the room and off on his own. They don't notice him leaving either. That night, he dreams of death and loneliness, of being backed against a wall of the building that was once the administrative center of Uzushio, with a Mizukage and 4 of his best shinobi around him. Dreams of a grim and pale-faced, red-headed boy who stares at him with regret in his eyes and anger twisting his mouth. Reishi, Naruto says, regret in his own twisting and turning in his gut, because he knows this Chunin, has seen him with his Aunt Yui and thought him a polite, smart child, if quiet and reserved. Reishi, why? But Uzumaki Reishi has no answer, and Naruto has no time to get one out of him, because the Mizukage closes in. He fights. Of course he fights! But the Mizukage is fresh, and has his Jonin to assist. And Naruto has been fighting for almost 3 days straight now, and is entirely alone. There's fighting on the docks and in the streets, carefully targeted to hit the village's most vulnerable, necessary areas. Administration, command, communication, medical, and no chance of any Uzushio shinobi coming to their Kage's aid. No chance of escape, not when Naruto can already feel even his Uzumaki reserves scraping rock bottom. In the end, he dies. And as he falls, throat cut from behind and blood a hot, wet flood against his skin, Uzushio's golden shores seem to rise up and catch him, cradling his body as he lands. It's still a hard blow, on top of all the aches, but not as hard as it could have been. Not nearly. The Mizukage huffs out a derisive laugh, though he's also bleeding heavily and entirely out of breath. With a petty sort of viciousness, he kicks Naruto's glaive, the weapon clattering away to land well out of reach. Our victory, the man says, and Naruto's world fades to darkness. But not entirely. Were he not already dreaming, he would think it a dream, some sort of hallucination maybe. But there's a vast sort of grief around him. Something ageless and untouchable, sunk into Uzushio's very stones, like the seals that were used to create her. Because the Shoandame Uzukage and the other founders drew Uzushio's stone from the sea, from within the earth in its rawest form, and then added their seals and created an entire city in the space of a month. And the seals remain, linger even now in the streets and walls and houses, in the fountains of the market district and the wave-lapped piers, present from one end of Uzushio to the other. Normally, they're dormant. Normally, they sleep, silent and all but forgotten. But every major shinobi family has added their blood to the heart of the city, the series of incredibly complex, intricate seals hidden deep underground that hold Uzushio together. The city knows them, recognizes their blood, and today, for the past 3 days, that blood has run in the streets and pooled in the gutters as Uzushio shinobi die. Blood has power. Chakra is power, soul-born and strong. And for the past 3 generations, the seals, the mater, have tied Uzushio to both of which have been spilled in copious amounts in this invasion. It's enough. A spark, a flicker, and all around Naruto there's a breath, a heartbeat, a knowing. Child, that vast voice, heart-sick with grief, whispers in his ear, sleep now. She tells him as the darkness rises up like a cresting wave. Sleep now. The city has fallen and the people are fled, but your soul dwells here. Someday, child, I will call you back. and you will come. Her touch is peace and painlessness, comfort and ease, and just for a moment Naruto forgets about war and sorrow and death at his heels. He closes his eyes, cradled by sun-warmed golden stones, and thinks of happier times. Kagami and Seihara-sensei and his teammates Haru and Fuyu, red rooftops and white stone and golden brown streets beneath the sun. Storms rising above the sea and immense in their power. People and moments and sights seen once but always treasured, bits of humanity amongst the tragedy. I will, he promises, even as he fades away entirely. I'll come back to you. I promise. That night, when the wind rises to whisper through the treetops, when the moon sails between tattered clouds and casts its waxing light across the sleeping village, Naruto opens his eyes in bed and sits up. The air is trembling, shivering, singing. His blood feels like fire in his veins, like moonlight, like starshine. He's tense and trembling, ready to run, but run to rather than away. Because there's a voice on the wind, not like the one he's heard his whole life. Me, he thinks now with some surprise. Oh, it was always me, wasn't it? I'm Arashi. Arashi is me. But something deeper, vaster, overwhelming as it crests the horizon like a wave and breaks over him with a soundless thunder. It's a voice, but in the same way that the sun is a star. The word isn't nearly large enough to encompass all that it is. Come home, it whispers, and even that is enough to make Naruto cry out, clapping his hands over his ears. Please, my child, I've waited so long. And Naruto remembers. He remembers the way that the city sang beneath his feet, how it hummed and whirred and buzzed with life, spoke without words, and felt alive around him. As a child and a man, and then more than ever as Uzukage, it spoke to him. She spoke to him. Uzushio. Uzushio is calling him home. Naruto-kun? Haku asks, sleepy but wary, sitting up on his futon across the small room. Are you alright? Naruto looks at him. This boy without roots, without a family, with only as much of a future as he himself can build with blood and sweat and effort, looks at him and thinks, oh, but we're the same, aren't we, in the end? Looks away, slides out from underneath the blankets, and says softly, sorry, Haku, I'll be back in a bit. Don't wait up for me. Then he's out the window without even bothering to change out of his pajamas. Out and running because of all the things that hold him to Konoha. Only one tie is forged to be unbreakable. And right now he needs that. But unbreakable or not, maybe it can stretch. Maybe he wants it to stretch.